great to see you here, guys. This session is going to be somewhat short, but it's going to be extremely sweet. So please, make sure that you catch Rose after the session. So Rose, you're the founder of ScreenHits TV. Do you mind just giving us a little elevator pitch as to what you do to give the audience a flavor?
Yeah, so I have a media tech company, and we kind of create the in-car smart TV. So a lot of car manufacturers, from Porsche to Ford to Lincoln Navigator, are starting to integrate in-car entertainment, and we've kind of been at the forefront of that process, which has been quite exciting.
And I really want to focus today on being women in business, right? And we spoke behind the scenes and previously that women have very different challenges, let's say, to men when it comes to establishing a business. Within your career, and especially with ScreenHits TV, have you encountered any barriers? And how did you manage to navigate through them?
I think that yes and no. So I think that we all know that it's difficult for women to get financing. I think that kind of relates to two different things. I think one, women that I know that have started businesses, they may not have kind of that same understanding of doing all the finance and all the forecasts and all of those things and being able to actually communicate that. Everybody has different skill sets. So one of my challenges was really kind of getting to that point. I think another one is being tough in business. I mean, as a woman, sometimes when you're tough, you could be seen as being too tough. We saw that with Martha Stewart. While men, I think, can be quite strong, and it's okay. So I think that that's been a challenge, and just me learning how I help to grow and build my teams, and how I can maintain a firm kind of structure, but at the same time being sensitive.
Are there any particular tips that you've learned along the way that might help exactly how to become, tough and strong within this industry and environment?
I think, it's frustrating. When you have a small startup company, you're working with low budgets, and you can't go and hire the top people because you can't pay the top salaries. So you end up with people that have a desire to learn, but they don't have the skill set. So with that comes a lot of mistakes and errors and problems. And what I found is it's kind of taking a step back, it's understanding that, and just trying to work with people to help them grow, and also helping them to understand the errors they made along the way to do it better. But that has been probably one of the biggest challenges, trying to maintain a team and manage that team and help them grow because they don't have that same experience.
How many of you are right now in the team?
We're about 25.
Okay, so
not boutique.
Boutique, yeah, but not too small. And you did say that obviously, as a young business, as an entrepreneur, as a startup, you do have very limited budgets in terms of, putting money somewhere. But you also have mentioned some fantastic names, Porsche, Renault, you guys are working with Disney Plus and BBC. I mean, there's a whole range of partners. So how do you get to that stage where, first of all, you get your foot in the door, having conversations with the big brands, and secondly, how do you manage?
Yeah, so one of my things when I started my company years ago, my father always told me, go work in, corporate America at the time. Learn as much as you possibly can. And when the time is right, you'll know. So when I started my company, I had, 15 years under my belt of experience working for the big companies like Universal Pictures and Sundance. And so I kind of took that and put it into my business. So that, I think, really helped me open up doors to some of these larger companies because I knew how to do an RFQ process. I knew how to go for tender and pitch and win the businesses. So I think it's always just really ensuring that you have that skill set and knowing what you're good at. And I, happen to be good at sales, so that really benefited me in starting a business. And I think also people forget the product. So it's not just, even though I'm great at sales, I really needed a good tech team. I don't believe in outsourcing a lot of stuff, so there's a lot of people that have developers for hire, and what you get is kind of a mixed match of a product. But when you actually keep everybody in-house, they're invested, they really care about it, and they're constantly improving and building the product. So we kind of led with putting all of our money into our tech development, and it made it really easy for me to sell it into those big brands.
And you're no stranger to being in the public eye in massive media outlets, right? Would you say that having this visibility also helped you? And do you reckon that women that we have here in the audience should also embrace that and not be scared of it?
Yes and no. So I think I think that press kind of helps to elevate because then it kind of, it's kind of like a validation. So people see you in the media, they feel, okay, this is interesting. It catches the eye of somebody that may not be aware of your product. However, at the same time, I remember when we launched Porsche, that was like really exciting and I wanted to shout it to the rooftops. But with that came really big giants that were sleeping, that were like, what in the world? Like, how did this woman get Porsche? She's in all of these Porsche vehicles. And all of a sudden, I had competitors that were not paying attention to the space come out from like LG WebOS to Amazon to Apple CarPlay. And these are big giants. And it kind of put a lot of pressure. And at that point, I realized, you know, maybe what I should just do is kind of keep my head down and just close these distribution deals, focus on the product, and not notify the world and my competitors of what I'm doing. And so we went quiet for about 3 years, and we signed a lot of deals. We have about 60% of the car market, which is exciting. And I think that was because it's like knowing when to do the press and knowing when not to. And I would always recommend, at the beginning, you have to, because people need to know who you are. It helps to validate. It helps to open up the door to get that meeting. But then I think people need to really put their heads down and focus on their ROI and their product and everything.
And when you're working with those big brands, do they tend to see you as a partner or just as a supplier? Because a lot of times, you know, with startups, they just like, well, you're a supplier, we don't want to name you, or, you know, we don't want you to piggy ride on our backs and stuff. Have you encountered anything like this?
No, but I think that it's, we do not take the position of a supplier. So we do like weekly meetings with all of our car brands. We have weekly meetings with our content partners. And I think it's really important that we all, even though we're a small team, we kind of position ourselves within that. So we will go and spend a day, you know, 1 day a month with one of our car partners at their factories. We'll sit down with their teams. We integrate. We don't overcharge. I think a lot of the big suppliers, like tier 1 OEM suppliers, will charge for every little thing. And I think sometimes as a small company, you have to take that hit from a financial standpoint. And we believe it's more about that relationship. And that, I think, has been, you know, one of the reasons when people are like, but they're just a small company. Will they be around in like, you know, 5 years? And I think that our partners are like, no, you know what, we're going to support them because they're great, they're flexible, easy to work with. And so they are happy to name us, and Porsche did an amazing press release, and we're about to come out with one with Ford and Lincoln Navigator, so it's exciting.
And how do you deal with the competitors? Because obviously you guys are still relatively small, maybe compared to some of your competitors. And as you said, they were never kind of taking you seriously, how long you'll be staying around. But how do you kind of go through that and not necessarily like being scared of them, you know, trying to take away, let's say, Ford or Porsche from you, but, or maybe you have good relationships with them? How do you deal with the competition when it comes to kind of expanding globally?
Yeah, well, I never really focus so much on the competitors, and I know that a lot of people do. I really try to focus on our product. I really try to focus on my relationship with the partners that we have, and I think that has been, it's great. I mean, we're always aware what they're doing in the market, but I think if you end up always chasing your competitor, you're basically just developing what your competitor is doing versus being innovative and thinking what's coming next. So a lot of the competitors, because we were the first movers in this space, are now copying and doing what we're doing, which is, I think, always a compliment. But I think it's really about maintaining those relationships, being flexible, and focusing on the product.
And I know that we're very short on time, but I do have 2 questions.
Yeah.
So first is, what would be the one piece of advice you do give not only to female founders, but to any founders when trying to break it, you know, and go global? And the second one, whether you're going to be staying around in case people want to grab you and have a conversation.
Yeah, so the first one, I would say, know that you have to operate, like if anybody can try to do it on a bootstrap, I really recommend that because you have the freedom and the flexibility to grow and be innovative with what you're trying to do. And I think sometimes a lot of startups take a lot of money too early. And I think especially women, if they're able to get access to the funds, they're so excited and they take it. But a lot of businesses do fail from that as well because they don't have that flexibility. And I think one of the reasons we survived is because we didn't have that, because we had to learn how to make money. So we weren't relying on funding. It was like, where are the sales? Where's the revenue? And then that's when people came. So they came at the right time, and I had more of a position to negotiate great terms. And the second one, will I be around? Yes, I will be around for a bit if people want to talk to me. And I'm on LinkedIn as well, and always happy to talk to people.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
And we did it in our time.
We did.
Thank you.
Up to you.
Thanks.